Coffee and Pan Dulce. How's that? Coffee and Pan Dulce.
Barb Bacon, and I'm a community advocate here in South Charlotte. If I had my buttons on today, it would be let's get some gun control. I'm tired of looking at the news and seeing this. Black Lives Matter in honor of our friend Joel. And let's have equal rights for everybody.
This is Jenny James Gunn. I am a community advocate here in Charlotte, North Carolina for LGBT women's rights with the National Organization for Women, gun sense laws with Moms and Men Action, and anything that extends equity to all. Thank you.
Christian Cano, you're the co-host. My buttons are Moms and Men Action, gun sense legislation, healthcare for all, Medicare for all, and also in my heart, Black Lives Matter on behalf of Joe Oldham, who's a guest of ours who passed away last year. That's it.
Good morning, everybody. It is Coffee and Pan Dulce time, and we got some pretty mellow, chill music going on.
That's kind of a mellow morning.
Yeah, it's we're kind of the dog days of summer, and it's gotten pretty warm, and technically the Charlotte Pride is over because it would have been this last weekend.
So we're tired from Charlotte Pride. That's what it is.
Yeah, we're pre-tired. So we some people pre-game before they go out to a bar. Call it pre-gaming. So we're pre-tired of having too much fun. Yeah. Even though as we record this, it hasn't happened yet. But when you see this, it would have already happened. So anyway, welcome to the show. How you doing, Christian?
Good morning, Jenny. It's so great to be back home in Charlotte, North Carolina. It's good to be home. You know, I enjoy going to our undisclosed location every year. I enjoy it. It's wonderful. But it's just as good to be back home, back into, the norm, so to speak. So it really is good. I'm happy to be back, and especially when I came back, you and I were going to Pride, because by the time people see this, Pride we would have gone, but when it's dropped. So anyway, so it's you have something to look forward to come back to. So it is. It's exciting. Yes. Yeah. You got to have the maximum amount of fun and come back to some more fun. And, it's going to be. It's going to be a fun August and fall football season. I know for you it's not a big deal, but football season's going to start.
I don't watch
foosball.
It's Kathy Bates' character in Waterboys. The foosball's for the devil.
Foosball. Yeah. So this is dropping what? August 23rd. This one's dropping.
23rd. So it's
our
the
fourth
a month. So we have it's a bonus month. We have 5 Wednesdays.
Five. What? Do it, Jenny.
We got guns. We got knives. We got guns that look like knives.
Sunday.
Buy 4 shows, get 1 free, and we literally we're in one of those months where the first Wednesday fell so early in the month. August has 31 days, so one of the longer months of the year, and so it just timed out right where we got that fifth show squeezed in, and it's been a long summer. Like it feels like we're not even completely over. Yeah, but it felt like June was exceptionally long. I know for me personally, July was very, very long. A lot of work, and August has been a lot of work for me. So it's summer's not been the easiest season for me this year, and so it just feels like, and I love summer. So summer is my favorite season, but because I've been so busy, it's not felt fun. It's not. It's not.
It's felt different.
Leisurely summer, to say the least. It's a lot different than what it was during the pandemic.
And it's been hot.
You know, honestly, most of the time that you were gone, it actually rained here in Charlotte.
Oh, wow.
So it warmed up for you the week you came back. And so this is the hottest week I think we've had since you've been gone. We've had rain and thunderstorms come through, I would say, every 4 to 5 days. And most yards were super, super green up until this last week when this, and so, but it warmed up. And so, we had some weeks where it barely got up into the low 80s. And we had one day that only got to like 77. And so, it's been a weird summer. Because it was kind of getting hot when you left. And then it cooled off, and then it got hot when you came back. So you brought the heat with you.
I brought the heat. That's right.
You turned on the heater and just left it on, you know. And,
that's right.
Christian's come back.
That's right. Well, as Jenny said, this is the fourth show, our fourth Coffee Pan Dulce show of August. We have one more after this one, and then we'll start what we call the fall shows, even though technically summer doesn't end until September 21st. But we want to thank everyone who's watching us. This is Coffee Pan Dulce. We want to thank everyone who's watching us on Facebook Live, also those who join us on YouTube, and the thousands who listen to us on your favorite audio podcast platform. I do want to say that we've had a really good last 28 days. The shows in Florida were very, very successful, and we want to thank everyone for joining us. Before the show, we talked about one of the shows that one of our YouTube shows that apparently people are watching. So we want to thank everyone who's watching it. But if you can't find it on YouTube, you can find it on Facebook, and you can listen to it on any of the audio podcast platforms. And now, because of a little incident we had on YouTube, we'll have to figure out how to make sure they're also on our website. So we're gonna do what we need to do to make sure that you watch these. But thank you so much, and thank you, Jenny, for helping me carry the shows while I was in an undisclosed location. Is this a very comfortable chair?
Actually, That can be my birthday gift. It won't hurt my feelings at all.
I'll write that down.
I have a very uncomfortable chair that I sit in for my desk, and it's actually a really cheap, free wooden chair that I got, and it is not conducive for sitting.
I'm writing this down because I was watching last week's show and I was looking at the chair and I thought, I wonder if she realizes how comfortable that chair. This really is a very comfortable chair. It is technically. I think I told you that this is technically a gaming chair.
Yeah. No.
Okay.
It. But honestly, gaming chairs are designed for you to be able to sit extended periods of time.
Yes.
Game.
Yes.
So, they're designed to be, ergonomically correct and comfortable. Because if you're sitting and playing video games for 2 or 3 or 4 hours, obviously you don't want a chair that makes you miserable. So they're almost like a recliner, but they just don't recline. They just don't do the same functions.
Yes.
Now, actually, because this is the first week that I've done this show back in my studio.
Back home.
And my butt's a little sore, so I started putting it during the because we record my show first,
Yes, that's right.
So right now my butt's sore, and it hasn't been sore for 4 weeks.
Yeah.
which
Well,
sounds bad,
it's very comfortable. And I did not know before we bought this chair. I know we're going into rabbit hole here, but I didn't know before we bought it. This is the third chair that I've had to buy. And I did not know that chairs were rated by how long you can sit in them. Office chairs are usually from 4 to 6 hours. And then they do have office chairs from 6 to 8. But gaming chairs are rated from 8 to 12. And so this is actually rated so you could, if you wanted to, just sit in it for 8 hours to 12 hours and be comfortable. I don't that long, but it's very, very comfortable. I could if I wanted to, especially when I'm editing. Anyway, all right. So listen, we're going to go directly into our Barb's current events. Let's go directly into our Barb's current events.
And this is Barb's current events.
Okay, so here we go. Barb's current events. I haven't shared this with you, Jenny, but the three of them, you probably predicted these. Since we last aired, 45 was indicted for the fourth time.
Shocker.
That's the first one down in Atlanta. The indictments came late on a Monday night, and so that's the first one. The next one, and we're going to be a little careful on this one, Jen, and you probably understand why. There is a report that was done. I want to make sure that I quote this right, so whoever's listening, they know. I believe it was USA Today. I want to say USA Today. I'm trying to read the report. The CDC released the mortality database of deaths in America, and they released this last week. And apparently, the mortality rates in the United States is declining. There is a rapid rate of decline in the mortality rates in the United States over the last several years. Now, I want you to don't take my advice. Go to the CDC website or go to the USA Today story, because if you look at this map, you will see the mortality rates that are the lowest, that are declining the fastest, are all little red dots in Republican states. All of the blue dots, like in California and all of the top areas, and actually even in the very bottom of South Florida, it's blue dots, which means it's still at 86.8 years of age. But there are dots in the central the southeastern parts of the United States and certain sections of Texas that the average age is only 66.8 years of age. And so that is very concerning. And apparently that has been going down over the last couple of years. I wanted to be very careful how I worded that, because don't take my word. I'm reading this from the CDC, and however you want to read into it. The last one, Jenny knows why I'm saying that. The last one is an article that talks about this Patriot Front members that apparently were exposed by a newspaper in, I want to say, Idaho or somewhere. But apparently these Patriot Front people were posting all this social media stuff anonymously. And this newspaper found out who they were, and printed their names. And they all got fired from their jobs, and they all got, their names were published. And so now they're suing the newspaper, saying that they violated their freedoms. And the newspaper's response is basically, you fucked around, now you're finding out.
Right. And it's one of the most interesting arguments, because it's a frivolous lawsuit. And Republicans blathered on about abusing the legal system when it regards to Trump, which I think is ironic,
Okay.
that every time one of these Republican snowflakes, one of these MAGA float snowflakes, does their stupidity, like all these stupid militia groups that are just really just an excuse to have man-on-man time and march around and prance around and very latent homosexual rituals. I saw, it's off the topic just a little bit, but I think one of the most interesting things, I just saw a video a few days ago about this one militia training, and somebody reposted off somebody's Twitter, and these guys were really, in their little drills that they were doing, was doing a lot of man-to-man contact and doing these really weird, like, fireman carries and all this kind of stuff. But let's just get to the point. These groups are all created so these guys can have men's only spaces so they can do good things. And so these freedom fronts and all this is just in the closet bisexual men and gay men that are running conservative circles that are now gotten outed by the newspaper and said, hey, not only are they attacking people and doing all kinds of illegal activities, allegedly, but they're also, more than likely, there's a lot of man-on-man time, if you know what I mean, in these groups too. So they're mad because they probably went to some drag shows for research purposes and probably cruised on Grindr for research purposes. And now people know that they know that these guys are doing that. And so they're not only do they get their fired from the jobs, but they probably also got in some trouble with their girlfriends and wives. As far as the CDC, our mortality rate, average age of death, has been declining for several years. A lot of it has to do, obviously, COVID didn't help that. Increase in overdose deaths with narcotics in the last few years has also affected that. Also, gun violence. Gun violence disproportionately affects younger people and younger adults and kids and young veterans more than anybody else, whether it is suicide, mass shootings, or gun violence in general. These are all things, and there's probably more shootings in red areas, and definitely overdose deaths. One of the reasons the Republicans are going so crazy about these fentanyl overdose that spiked the last couple of years is because they're happening mostly in red areas, red counties. So they're seeing this, which there's always been a lot of overdose deaths in red counties. It's not an inner city. And you see it more in poor areas because people use drugs as a way of escaping.
Exactly.
And your life in rural Missouri is going to be a lot more miserable than living in Charlotte. Just less opportunity. There's more depression. There's a lot of issues. There's a reason why Missouri is the meth capital of the world. So, and just like fentanyl, I know when I lived in a small city, tourism city in Branson, I've never seen more drug use by a very conservative group of people. Everybody I've ever known that's had to check into rehab is always conservative. They love their narcotics as much as they love narcissism. The Trump indictments, he's in the find out phase of his life. This has been coming to him his entire life. He's been been doing shady things like his Trump University, where you got, veterans and certain types of people that got education grants because they were a veteran, and they gave him $10,000, $20,000 to go to his fake real estate university, got sued over. Like, this dude This dude scammed old people and veterans, the government. He's a tax cheat. He has done this kind of stuff all of his life. Mm-hmm. But up until now, he's always been able to hush it down and buy his way out of this. He can't because he's a former president now. But we can't let him, and we're not going to. The state of Georgia and that prosecutor, Fannie Wells, has said, this is the find out part. You're not going to do this in Georgia. And other thing is, he admitted it.
Yeah.
He said he made the perfect phone call.
Mm-hmm.
This all has to extend back to the perfect phone call and him trying to get them to find an extra 12,000 votes just laying around, and got his buddies to help him, and they're all getting indicted too. So that's the thing, when this all comes down to it, it's going to be jackasses. Lindsey Graham's involved, Roger Stone, and all the Rudy Giuliani. And Rudy's already in enough legal hot water anyway. But these fools keep doing shit like this.
Yeah.
They've set themselves up. They just like that restaurant owner down in Florida. They had to fire 19 employees and pay a $500,000 fine. These jackasses have made these rules. And now they're suffering. And now they fucked around long enough. Now they're finding out. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, I mean, you say it all the time. The fuck around time, then there's a find out time, and
it's a FAFO.
FAFO. So
it's FAFO time.
Yeah, we're going to take our first break here, but I just want to once again comment on that CDC report. So this actual report came out in Public Health magazine, and the data was from the CDC. So if you are watching this show, I do encourage you to go to that and just look at that and look at the map, and it talks about how life expectancy has been declining in certain regions. Overall, the United States has been declining in comparison to Europe. But in certain areas, it has been declining faster. But I just find it interesting because we've been talking about this over the last 4 years. A lot of those red states are some of the most dangerous places to live, like you said, because of poverty, because of self-medicating, because of a lot of health reasons, a lot of other areas. I won't go into it anymore. But so don't take my word for it. I'm not a doctor. All I'm doing is telling you that this is a very interesting data to take a look at, and also, but the Patriot Front Punt. I want to read you this little note. So the editors of this magazine, this newspaper that outed these Patriot Front guys, they basically said at the center of the lawsuit, what they really upset about is suffering the consequences of their apparent terrible views that they feel so strongly about that they don't want anyone to know about them, which is why they wear masks. All we did was expose them. And so I thought this is the reason it made headlines was because of the magazine or the newspaper editors' response to the lawsuit. They didn't say it's frivolous. They basically said, no, listen, you knew it was bad, which is why you covered your face. And so it was a wonderful, wonderful article. I thought it was like, see, that's what needs to be done all over the country with these Proud Boys who are now, like you said on your show before, it's interesting that they were all against masks, and now all they do is cover their faces. So very interesting. All right, so let's go and take our first break, and we're going to try to talk about this topic, which I have a feeling you are going to have to do other things because there's not a lot. We've talked about this several times, but we're going to be taking our first break on Coffee and Pan Dulce right after this.
Hey y'all, thanks for watching and support local black and brown businesses, including our sponsor, Manolo Bakery. It has some fabulous pastries, food, king steaks, all kinds of specialty cakes, swallows, and much, much more. Some of the best food you eat in Charlotte, North Carolina. Again, Manolo's Bakery, right here in East Charlotte. Thanks for watching. Hey, y'all, thanks for watching the Florida shows. They've been wildly successful. Obviously, it's a topic that you guys have enjoyed and wanted to know more of. And we like talking about the dumpster fire that used to be the state of Florida. And we'll probably talk about it some more this summer. Thanks for watching, y'all.
Bye, y'all. Thanks for watching. Hey, everyone. Thank you so much for watching our Coffee Pan Dulce show every week. Don't forget, you can watch us visually on our video podcast platforms on Facebook and YouTube, but you can also listen to us on your favorite audio podcast platforms like Apple, Amazon, iHeartRadio, Spotify, and all of the other ones that your favorite, whatever your favorite is. Once again, thank you for watching us on Coffee Pan Dulce. We'll dance out. Well, welcome back, everyone. So today's topic is America's Top Cities Are Blue, Part 2. We did a show about this time last year about why or how America's top 20 cities have Democratic governors, Democratic mayors, and Democratic. And during that time period, the last remaining top America 20 city, Jacksonville, Florida? Jacksonville, Florida, elected a Democratic mayor. So now all top 20 cities in America are Democratic mayors. And we talked about this. And the reason we talk about it is because so often we see on our social media posts, and you see the bots and the MAGAs and the trolls and the Proud Boys talk about, Chicago and, all kinds of, this is. Well, the reality is, if you look at the data, the counties that voted for Biden in 2020, those counties that Biden won represent almost 70% of America's wealth. The remaining 30% of the counties that went to, the other counties that went to Trump, which there are a lot of counties, they're all in a lot of other regions, they only represent 30% of America's wealth. The reality is the best and the brightest move to big cities because there's more to offer to them. And that is just the reality. So when you hear these people talking about, the big city and this, well, my argument has always been, because you can't handle the big city. The reason you're upset about big cities is because you can't compete in the big city. And there's a lot of benefits in living in smaller cities. So, sure. Jenny, I want to get your take on it because I know you and I talk about this a lot. And I think everyone knows this. It's just interesting to hear them try to defend, Waco, Texas, or something.
When you talk about, even one of our topics when we got into that study is, and this has not been debated just in the United States, but this has come up a lot in the European Union and things like this. And it really comes down to quality of life. And I mean, quite frankly, one of the reasons Democrats do so well in big cities is because, one, you have, I think, a little bit higher level of education levels in a big city. You have more professionals. You have a more diverse population. There's more walks of life. When you have that kind of diversity, they all come to the same conclusion that the Democrat Party is just more competent.
Exactly.
They're more diverse. They represent more people. And when you have a big city like Charlotte that is very diverse with 20% LatinX, I don't know what the percentage is of African Americans. We have a large Asian Pacific Islander community here. We have a lot of people from India. We have a lot of people from Eastern Asian cities and countries. And so we have a very, very, we have a Turkish festival here. We have we are a melting pot, like most cities are, like in New York City. And most places in the world want to be progressive. They want progress. And Republicans are literally like the cock block of progress. They don't want any fun of it. They don't want kids talking in middle schools. They want to turn libraries into detention centers. they literally bought off the rails of this super authoritarian, restricted bullshit. So yeah, people flee to big cities. They don't want to put up with the small town bullshit. They don't want to pull up with Jason Aldean in a rainbow dress bitching about big cities. Going, you can't do that in a small town. There's a lot of things you can't do in a small town. By the way, you're not even from a small town, so you didn't even.
Yeah.
Over 200,000 people. It's as big as Amarillo, Texas, and these conservative fucksticks don't really. And the majority of them live in big blue cities, like our jackass, our own local jackass, Dan Bishop. Him and his staff, are poo-pooing big blue liberal East Coast elitist cities. I'm going, well, fuckstick, your guy lives in fucking Charlotte, dumbass. He has a Charlotte address. And he lives in
and it is the East Coast.
and we're on the East Coast. North Carolina's an East Coast state. We have the East Coast, Atlantic Coast, beachfront. In fact, we're kind of known the Carolinas are kind of known for our beaches. Like, it's South Carolina, but it's Myrtle Beach. Like, Carolina beaches are pretty good. A lot of people come to visit them. It's part of our economy.
Yeah.
And but I find it funny how they bitch about these cities that these same jackasses make money off.
Well, yeah.
You're not going to make money off Jerkwater, Moose Knuckle, Arkansas that has like 13 people in it. How much money can you make with 13 people? Mecklenburg County that we sit in has over 1.2 million people and is the driving engine of economics in our state.
So, but don't you, this is what I find interesting, because part of it's social media, part of it's just because of news cycles and stuff like that. But in one breath, when I hear about all these Moms for Liberties things or these Bible bigots things going on, like in Keller, Texas, or Burleson, Texas, or a lot of the suburbs of these of the major cities. When you hear that, because I know, and I'm from Texas, and you're from Texas too, I roll my first instinct is to roll my eyes because I'm like, well, it is Keller. It's like, it's almost like, well, it is Monroe. It's not Charlotte, it's Monroe. But then you go, well, now I know why people don't really want to move to Monroe, because it is Monroe, and if you are a prosperous, educated young person, you want to live in an area that offers you more diversity, more things in general. Young people want to live in bigger cities because there's a lot more to do. But the same song that we've been talking about, that Jason Aldean song about don't mess with small town whatever, there is actually a song that's 5 years older than that, Jenny, that I heard this last weekend. I had forgotten. It's called I Don't Want to Put Up with Small Town Bullshit. And it talks about, it's actually a lady who sings the song who doesn't want to live in a small town because she's tired of the small town gossip and small town baloney. So there are more people who want to leave small towns than there are people who want to move to small towns. So I do think that it is kind of funny that we're going through this like couple of months of people being admirers of small towns, when as a matter of fact, most of your country music, if you really listen to country music, is all about getting out of small towns. We're gonna pause just a second. Hold on. Oh, okay.
Yeah, you're losing it.
Okay, hold on. My signal is really strong. Let me see.
It's probably on my end.
Oh, that's fine. I'll lose them. But okay, I'm going to edit this. Hold on one second. What I'm going to do now is I had completely forgot because it's been a while since we haven't. St. Bernie, who is with us, we're going to lose him today, and also MAGA, Felon, Baby, Trump, Pinata, we're going to lose him because we're going to talk about MAGA's dad. So we're actually going to take our second break, and when we come back from our second break, we're going to leave them, so it's just us. So we'll be right back on Coffee and Pan Dulce right after this. Hi, I'm Christian Cano. Thank you so much for joining us on Coffee and Pan Dulce. And also thank you so much for watching us on Facebook and on YouTube. But also don't forget, you can actually listen to us on your favorite audio podcast platform like Apple, Spotify, Google, Amazon, Deezer, Podcast Addict, Podcast Chaser, and others. Once again, thank you for so much for watching us and listening to us on Coffee and Pan Dulce. Have a great day. All right, welcome back on Coffee and Pan Dulce, and I just wanted to say goodbye to MAGA, Baby Trump, Pinata, and St. Bernie. We hadn't had them in such a long time. I actually forgot they were on. So thank you, Jenny, for bringing it up, because sometimes it does slow down our broadcast. But kind of what I was saying, Jenny, if you really listen to a lot of country music, and those who listen, like I listen to country music all the time, most of the country songs are not about admiring small towns. It's about getting away from small town bullshit, getting away from my ex, my dog, all that kind of stuff.
And most pop music, whether it's popular country or pop music in general, is usually getting away from bad situations.
Exactly. Yeah.
Trolling families and exes and all kinds of stuff. Let me tell you, if you live in a small town, you don't get away with anything. It's miserable. I mean,
yes.
When you live in an ultra small town, like 20,000 or less people, your business is everybody's business. They don't even need a newspaper, because you buy a new car, everybody knows.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's maybe only 2 or 3 main streets. And they see you in the new car, and they go, oh, well, they text you, hey, congratulations, I saw you driving around. I'm like, oh my God. Yeah, I can't enjoy anything. And the biggest things that I love about big city is diversity of events, is seeing things. Like when I first moved here, and I've said this on the show a couple of times, there was a African print fashion show at the Mint Museum here in town. And I learned about the history of why they do the prints they do on those long, especially long robes and dresses, especially what women wear in different parts of Africa, and what the meaning much. And then they had 2 fashion designers that either currently lived in Africa and manufactured these clothes, or they used to live in Africa and grew up there and moved to the UK. And so it was very interesting and but you wouldn't have that type of an event probably in Macon, Georgia.
Exactly. Yeah.
Or in some rural Montana, Idaho type place. All you're going to see is misery. And I'm not trying to be. I've got a lot of family that lives in small towns in Texas. I just choose not to live there. I choose to live in places that are to me just more enjoyable. I would rather live in Charlotte than a rural North Carolina. Rural North Carolina has zero appeal to me. I don't want to live anywhere where I'm going to see tons of Trump signs. I don't want to hear glass packs on big old greasy pickup trucks with hitch balls hanging down. It's just not my crowd. Nothing wrong with it. I think truck balls probably be done on it. But it really goes back to quality of life. And many sociologists and many anthropologists are talking about that. And you've seen a movement in Europe, especially, on making sure a lot of the EU countries have made sure that they've had standards of living like universal health care, $20 an hour minimum wages and livable wages. As a lot of things they do in them. What is so weird about this push having social programs, making sure people can afford stupid things like healthcare, for example, is I'm going, but the benefit outweighs the cost. There's a reason why veterans and people that retire from the military get health care. is they know that they serve their country, and as a thank you, it's so important that it's been part of military service for a long time. The VA's been around a long time. Medical health care that my dad's received from being retired from the military, he's had for over 50 years. My dad hasn't served in the military since the early 70s, and he still gets health care in Texas from the VA system and the military hospitals for a reason. It's definitely extended his life. And so there is a quality of healthcare. There is a talk about accessibility and not having to fret over going to a doctor and paying a $500 medical bill that you just don't have, and you haven't met your deductible yet. It's just asinine.
One of the things I find kind of a little bit of hypocritical, even though, because as you know, Jenny, I mean, we spend time here in Charlotte. We also spend time back where our family lives, which is a small town. We also spend time, at the campgrounds, which is almost like a little small town. And what I find really kind of hypocritical is it's kind of like a fad. There's this brief fad of people really admiring, almost like the same type of individuals that think of the old Leave It to Beaver days or the Andy Griffin days. Those weren't real, but they have this vision in their mind that they think, oh, I'd like to be back in those days. Well, there were never really those days, but they want to be back in those days. But the people who live in those towns, they want to live like in a big city. They want the same amenities of the big city. They can't afford those amenities, but they want those amenities. And so here in North Carolina, this is a perfect example of kind of like how big cities have to subsidize small towns because of their wants and their needs. When I was running for office, the district that we represented had 8 counties. And obviously, Mecklenburg County was the largest county. All of the other 7 counties were very small counties. Every time I was in one of those counties talking to people, their biggest complaint was, how do we stop the brain drain of our talent, our youth? When our kids come from high school, they go to college, they don't come back because there's nothing to offer them. And that was the big, big, big conversation. But so they wanted government, the state government and the federal government, to put money into their small town so they could have the same amenities, the hospitals, the good schools, the things that would keep their young people. They didn't want to pay for it. They wanted other people to pay for it. And so then there was this
small town welfare is what they wanted.
Exactly. Okay. So, yes. Right before I ran for office in the state of North Carolina, they passed what in Texas they called it the Robin Hood Plan. Here, they passed legislation when the old governor was in office and they had the supermajority. They passed legislation to distribute business taxes that would be divided equally to all counties. So the 3 big counties that had the most business taxes, Mecklenburg County, Wake County, and then I think Ashford or whatever you call it, all of the tax money from businesses had to be distributed to help small counties, which means that money had to leave us to help subsidize those small. It was basically county welfare. It was like a rural welfare. And that is in effect today. And they were also the state was trying to take over the Charlotte airport because it was so profitable. They wanted the state to run it so the state could have the money instead of Mecklenburg County or Charlotte. So I do find it disingenuous. If you want to live in a small town, then you have to be able to pay. You have to live within your means. You can't expect to live in a rural small town and expect to live like you live in New York City and then complain why you can't live in New York City. So you understand what I'm saying is that they want their cake and eat it too.
100%, and that's been typical of conservatives for a long time and that's what makes them the party of hypocrites is they want to have this small-minded, small-town authoritarian control. You know, we saw that in the movie Footloose. The original
Exactly.
Bacon.
Yeah.
We don't, Baptist preachers not wanting anybody to have school dances. They're not wanting to have any fun of any kind. But then they want those same high school students, when they go off to college or go off into a professional life of some kind, when they move to a Charlotte or a Kansas City or whatever, they didn't give the welcome mat when they were younger. But for some odd reason, they think, I don't know, that they got some kind of Stockholm syndrome and they want to come back to that same jerkwater small town. It seems appealing while they abuse them.
Yes.
They scratch their head and wonder why they don't want to come back. And it's just like an abusive spouse. I wonder why she left me. Maybe because you're a jackass. Maybe because you're a cheating, lying, abusive narcissist. And small towns are like that. They're cheating, lying, abusive narcissists. Yeah. And they wonder why they're in this situation. I was like, no, you wanted this. You want to have this weird, remote, hills got eyes existence.
Yeah.
You want to live out in the middle of bumfuck Egypt. Well, living out in bumfuck Egypt means you have no malls. You have no, you got to go to where people are at.
And access to medical care. Yeah.
It's not the field of dreams. If we build it, it will come kind of thing.
Exactly.
It's not a Kevin Costner movie. It's not a Dances with Wolves type situation. Nobody purposely wants to live out in the middle of nowhere, for the most part. I would find that frightfully scary myself, and so do a lot of people. The reason why almost 90% of America's population lives in cities and urban areas, because it's a better quality of life. It's
exactly.
Really answer. And that's why people even from other countries don't move to Goats Balls, Montana. They move to Charlotte. Nobody in their right mind. If I came from it, and they put a list of places I could live that have jobs ready for me, and 4 of them are in big cities, and one of them is in the middle of Idaho or any of these other dystopian crazy places. It's some rural area I couldn't even find on a GPS. I'd be like, no, I think I'm going to pass. And if a foreigner that does not know our country that well won't do that.
Yeah.
If I grew up there, I'm Irish. I know all the dirty secret. I know all the tea.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't want to go back there. I don't want to date my cousin. I don't want to. I want to have options. If I'm 25 years old and I just got a college handing out buggies, you want a buggy with that? No. What's the appeal to moving to either local small towns here in Charlotte? Like, who wants to live in Monroe, North Carolina?
And I think there's also this. I think there's also this misconception, and it is a known. It's willfully informing people. If you live in a suburb, you don't live in a small town. You just live in a suburb of a big city. So there are a lot of people who live in suburbs, especially in Texas, where almost every city is a suburb of a major city. And the people who live in those suburbs call themselves small town people, but they're not. They're just suburban people. And they think they're living small town living. No, you're not. You're just living suburban. You still have congestion. You still have, like, there are people in Charlotte, North Carolina, believe it or not, Jenny, that live in Ballantyne who think they live in a small town. Now, to put things in perspective, Ballantyne is just south of South Charlotte. It is a suburb.
It just turns into the Charlotte Highway. textures and rural life in between. It's just like when you cross over from Dallas to, Grand Prairie or Arlington, you don't really notice that you moved it in another city, except you might see now entering Grand Prairie, Texas. But the Grand Prairie, Texas has 500,000 people.
Yes.
Or more, and Arlington like 800,000 people. So you don't really know that you've left Dallas per se, unless you're a local and you just have every boundary memorized. But just like Plano, Texas, they're fairly small. But the reason why people live in the suburbs is because they know the same amenities.
If you like what you're hearing from Jenny, she does have a show that drops 30 minutes after this one. It's called Two Queers in a Truck. It comes on every Wednesday at 11:30. And this next commercial talks about her show, Two Queers in a Truck.
Up next is Two Queers in a Truck with Jenny and Christian. And hope you guys tune in. We'll see you in about 15 to 20 minutes. Thank you. Bye.
All right. Well, welcome back. And don't forget to join Jenny in her show, Two Queers in a Truck. It tapes before this one, so I know what's going on. So listen, we don't have a lot of time left, and we kind of have a little bit of challenging signal today. So we're going to keep this short here. But I do want to jump into our Pendejo Chronicles. This is the Pendejo Chronicles. All right, the Pendejo Chronicle. I don't know if this is really a Pendejo Chronicle, and see if you can comment on this, Jenny, or not. But the Pendejo Chronicles, a new polling just came out in New Hampshire. Believe it or not, DeSantis is now in third place. Chris Christie jumped over DeSantis in New Hampshire. Trump is still leading by far in the polling, but DeSantis is doing so bad that he's now in third place. So I don't know. Do you I don't know if you heard that one, but do you want to comment on that at all before we end the show?
Yeah, I did. I turned my camera off just to give me more bandwidth.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, DeSantis is flagging so much because of the extreme policies he had in Florida that are getting Florida Republicans saying publicly and privately, "Hey, you need to slow it down." Even some of his biggest donors are slowing up on donations, and actually, nationwide, Republican state parties are struggling getting donations. Some are historically low in money. And a lot of this is two things. One, the party's funding Trump's legal defense fund. But two, a lot of the MAGA donors are only donating to Trump. I mean, there's old ladies sending him their life savings. Like you talk about a brain drain. One, they didn't start with a lot of brains, but two, they're getting killed in the polls. DeSantis is getting just absolutely murdered in the polls because of this. Because you come off as some kind of crazy dictator now. People can't even take him serious. Between that and the weird things he does when he's on camera, like last week when he was like practically gacking out and having this weird maniacal laugh at questions, when he gets questions that calls him out on stuff he does, he gets like really weird and squirmy, like he just flashed people at a bus stop or something. It's super, super creepy. And this is creepy. His wife is creepy too, with those giant ass eyebrows. And
I do find
it's not electable.
No, it's exactly right, Jenny. And I do find, we've been talking about this for since we've been talking about DeSantis. And one of the things that I've been kind of reading the same thing that you've been reading. Republicans are saying he's not likable. He always seems angry. He won't get off this woke stuff. He just doesn't seem like he wants to expand. They don't understand what he's trying to go, because he's talking about Florida, but he's not talking about the things that people in Florida are talking about, which is high insurance rates, the heat wave, the climate change. And so people there are going, the people in your state don't even think I think they thought he was going to, almost similar to like us, I think like with Trump. We assumed Trump would grow into a president. He never did. He stayed a dick. They assumed DeSantis was going to be the smarter Trump, that he wasn't going to be as dickish, but he turns out to be even less likable. And it was like he went out of his way just to be a petty little punk.
Yeah. Well, the biggest problem is that, one, Trump was never fit for office. He would never should have been a president. He
exactly.
Even his mannerisms, like he tries to sound articulate, and he tries to almost like have these moments, like he tries to manufacture it, or almost like he's cosplaying or role playing being presidential, because he's an idiot. He's incompetent. He doesn't know any good policies. But DeSantis is worse. So he's even dumber and more problematic than Trump. And so he's trying to do the things that he thinks the Republican Party wants him to do, or they're telling him to do. And then when they blow up in his face, because these are really bad ideas, nobody else in the world, no other country in the world would allow him to do the things he's doing in Florida. And so now that he's melting the state the fuck down, people with any kind of brains or means that can get out of there are leaving in droves. When you talk about brain drain and talent drain, and also businesses aren't going to invest anymore. You already saw Disney pull out a huge $5 billion project, and they're moving it somewhere else. You've got some significant issues, and losing that type of investment, which is one of Florida's mainstays, his biggest employer, private employer, which is Disney Corp. If you got them divesting from Florida, you got problems. I don't care what their battle is. That's where you go, okay, maybe I need to do a step back, evaluate my policies, and admit that I'm being an asshole. You're muted.
Sorry about that. One of the things I found very interesting, Jenny, is with DeSantis, and admittedly, I like that it's happening, because I don't like DeSantis, and I'm glad he's not able to recover. But one of the things I find baffling is his message is not working. It's not working. He's not winning Trump people over, no matter how anti-woke. He's not winning central moderate people over, because he's so anti-woke. It's almost annoyingly anti-woke. It's just so annoying. And so you would think that someone in his campaign would say, hey, let's try to soften up. Let's try to be a little bit more moderate. But he's dug himself so deep, and his ego is so big that he can't admit that he's wrong. And that is the failure of him, is he doesn't have the ability to kind of like shut up for a little bit and just kind of like be normal. He's so arrogant, and he's so petty. And I think that's what people are looking at. They're going, you know what? And I think you said this a couple of weeks ago, Trump sometimes has a little bit of humor or whatever. DeSantis, you don't even want to be around him. Well, and
Trump was a long-time TV personality. He, besides all his cringy, rapey, criminal activities, he has a little bit of the P.T. Barnum self-promoting flair, so to speak. Like I can see him with a little top hat, and a little ringleader. And he, his biggest mistake was giving up his very successful TV show to run for president. I thought it was a huge career mistake.
Yeah.
He was way out of his depth. He did really good with the TV show, and his two idiot sons being on it, and it would have made him hundreds of millions of dollars for the rest of his life. He could have comfortably done that show for 25 years.
And he would have been in legal problems.
He not as many, he still would have got the New York tax cheat thing and stealing from, a kid's cancer charity. But it wouldn't be it would have been at a level where he could keep sweeping stuff under the rug. And he would just look like just an aging celebrity. Instead of a fucking, espionage, coup leading fucking bumbling idiot with a bunch of bumbling idiots around him. And so, he got him and his family in this really dangerous waters that probably is going to put them all in prison at some point, and cause some serious problems for themselves.
Because I heard that the Republican chair of the committee that was investigating Hunter Biden, now it's at the special counsel, that he just said that they're going to start looking at Jared Kushner.
They have to. Is that
crazy?
They brought this on themselves when they were investigating Hunter Biden. That's never worked in the White House. Never worked for Biden when he was vice president. Never has worked in the current Biden administration. This is a guy he's a drug addict. Okay, there's hundreds of millions of drug addicts, functioning drug addicts all over the world. They've got pictures of him having sex. Yeah, he likes sex and drugs, and probably likes rock and roll too. And probably likes to dance as well. I'm sure the Baptists are just all up on it. But other than that, it's not the same as Jared Kushner and the two drug boys and crooked Ivanka. Is his whole family, including his idiot son-in-law, worked in the White House.
Exactly.
Ivanka got like 16, 17 patents from countries like, I don't know, China. Trump had a secret, undisclosed Chinese bank account.
Yeah.
Like, these are some serious, we find out that, Trump's got all these top secret deals and all of a sudden Jared Kushner gets a $2 billion thank you from the Saudi a royal family. I'm like, people don't hand out $2 billion just because they were likable.
Last question before we have to close out here. Chris Christie is now in second place, even though they're still far behind Trump. But he passed DeSantis. A couple of weeks ago, I said the only person that I could see that would be palatable to someone like Barbara, someone like, who's a moderate, or someone even the moderate Republican, would be Chris Christie, because he's the only one speaking out against Trump. Do you think, we got a long time, do you think Chris Christie could somehow sneak in and get the nomination?
Well, once Trump is not able to run, which is like if any of the January 6th, any of the Georgia charges lead to a conviction, which most likely they are. Either he's going to plea bargain and withdraw from the presidential race and agreed to never run again, or you're going to get a conviction and he's going to go to prison and they invoke the 14th and he's ineligible to run, and only Congress can make him eligible again by a 2/3 vote, which he's never going to get a 2/3 vote because the Republicans don't have the ability to do that. So he's soon going to be out of play between now and next spring. So the Republicans have a problem. They're going to have to, at some point, either convince Trump to do the right thing and stop running and cut the deal and make this all go away, kind of like Nixon did Watergate. When that happens, barely if with a whole clown car of candidates.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And this is something the Republican Party is talking about, and it's one of the reasons they tried to put the brakes on Dick Suckus.
Yeah.
With there's too much of a history.
Yeah.
It's just like Trump was able to squeak out a win in 2016 because he had no governmental history.
Sure.
Now, he had 4 years, so like the Americans said, overwhelmingly, we don't want a sequel to this movie. We're good. And 81 million people voted in old ass Biden. And turns out Biden ended up being a pretty good fucking president. There's another reason to put Democrats in control of Congress and the presidency is because of the first 2 years, as they literally saved this country. But the biggest point is, when Trump's out of play, who fills that void? Because all of them are drawing like 7%, 2%.
Exactly. Yeah.
I'm almost 0% like that one Vivek guy or whatever that's trying to out Trump. No Republican's going to vote for that dude.
Exactly. He's Hindu.
Yeah. Well, yeah. They got 2 Hindu candidates. They got 2 Indian candidates. Just one of them cosplays as a white woman.
Yes, and then you have Tim Scott.
Looks like a great fucking pumpkin. I mean, you think before he'd run for president, he'd fix those chiclets of his.
Exactly.
He's got a mouth like a barbed wire fence.
Yeah,
and a fence post. The stuff he says, it completely keeps him from being electable. He's just one of the Republican idiots. Mike Pence, the MAGAs hate him.
Yeah.
He's still showing fealty to Trump, even though Trump's people tried to have him killed on January 6th.
Yeah.
I'm like, hey, so Chris Christie, his biggest issue is he went from being a never Trumper to being pro-Trump for so long and carried water for Trump for so long in the administration and became a Trump apologist and lanky, just like the rest of them.
Yeah.
He can't divorce himself from that history.
Yeah.
The Republicans have a big problem like they had in 92 and especially in 96 post-Reagan and Bush.
Okay.
But in 96, the Republicans had nobody.
Yeah.
Because Reagan Bush had so dominated their politics that they created a massive void of zero personalities and has-beens. And so they trotted out Bob Dole as a sacrificial lamb in 96. They had nobody. And Bob Dole was about as electable as me. Okay, like if I run for president of the Republican Party, I'm not electable either. I know that. No man going to vote for me.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I can't imagine. Yeah, I can't imagine any MAGAs or any DeSantis people are going to vote for Chris Christie because all Chris Christie is doing is highlighting how terrible Trump and DeSantis is.
Well, Southern MAGA Republicans from the Mason-Dixon line down aren't going to vote for Chris Christie.
Exactly.
He's a big, fat,
that's a good point. Yeah.
blowhard Yankee from New Jersey.
Yeah.
They got in trouble as governor.
Yeah.
And they and especially when he fires up the anti-Trump, how do you divorce the Republican Party from the MAGA movement inside the Republican Party that now is legal and leads the party, not necessarily in numbers, but in psychological Stockholm Syndrome control of the Republican Party.
Yes.
And like the lieutenant governor that I talked about, former Lieutenant Governor Duncan in Georgia, saying, I'm sick of this shit. I'm not a MAGA. I want the Republican Party to go back to being semi-crooked, not completely crooked. Yeah. We need to get some kind of fucking common sense. Like we want to be George W. Bush crooked. We don't want to be Colt crooked and be obvious in our chicanery, and we need to just settle down and take a chill pill. Chris Christie, if he was electable and likable, but Chris Christie's a horse's ass too. And that's
he can be.
Chris Christie is the Bob Dole of the 2020s.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point.
They
Hey,
had
listen,
about
hey,
personality and the same likability ratings.
good point. Hey, Jenny, we have run out of time. Thank you so much. In 30 seconds or less, tell us who you're going to be after this drops. So we'll let you go first, and you can turn your camera on. We'll see if it works.
I've moved to a different part of my apartment, so it's going to look more different. But yeah, I actually don't know what I would be doing this weekend. Obviously, I've already had a big weekend behind me, and probably going to be just working and chilling out and getting ready for September, which is my birthday month, and just living life. There's no major events coming up for a little while. They have that post Labor Day White Party fundraiser in mid-September where people proceeds from that fundraiser go to 3 different local area Charlotte nonprofits. So they do a lot of good work and fundraising. That's probably the next biggest event that's coming up besides local elections. We'll be getting into
that's right in Charlotte
election season pretty soon for city offices and the school board, which I know we'll probably do some shows on.
Yes,
so yeah, that's about it.
Excellent. Well, listen, thank you so much for helping me carry the show, and we hope to have Barbara back next week. Next week is our last show of the summer, or our summer, and the last show of August. It is what gave big labor life again in America. We'll be talking about the emergence of the labor movement again and who is helping drive that. So that will be our last show of the summer, and then we'll go into our fall shows, and I'm sure we'll be talking about many other things. So with that said, I want to thank you, Jenny, so much for helping us carry the show today, and we're going to dance out to something. Let's see what this one is. Give me a break. All right. Well, I guess that's some kind of Tejano thing. All right. Well, thank y'all. We'll see you next week on Coffee and Pan Dulce. Right after next week. We'll see you later.
Hey y'all, thanks for watching Coffee and Pan Dulce, and stay safe out there. It's still hot. We're trudging on, and drink lots of water and pace yourself. But have a great rest of August, and we'll see you next week.
Bye y'all.
Bye y'all. Next up, thanks for watching Coffee and Pan Dulce. Next up is 2 Queers in a Truck. Stay tuned.
Coffee and Pan Dulce. How's that? Coffee and Pan Dulce.
Sounds
You
great.
sounded like a telenova. I mean,
I'm trying this. I'm trying to. All I have to say is go. Yes.
as a non-Spanish speaker.
Give me 1 second, and then when you hear the music. So I know we're going to have to go because this is pretty obvious to us. All right, here we go. Okay, I'm going to drop them off right now. Give me 1 second. That one? Okay, this one. How's that?
Yeah, that's a lot better.
Is it? Okay. You want me to delete them or just put them in the waiting room? Well, they're not coming back, so let me remove them.
Yeah.
Move.
Yeah, I would just leave
That
them.
one.
Leave
Yeah,
them out.
yeah. Move. Here we go. Okay. All right, here we go. Yeah.
Not only make them prosper, but EU is very prosperous. Their euro is worth way more than the dollar, and has become maybe not a standard for currency worldwide because we still are. But quite frankly, a lot of Americans have moved to Europe because most Americans abroad. They've moved to Australia, they've moved to the EU, they've moved to Japan and what the rest of society is.
Yeah.
care of citizens. You take care of your own. And what I've always thought, well, hey, I'm going to probably have to work with it. And now buggies, you want a buggy with that? No. What's the appeal to moving to either local small towns here in Charlotte? Like, who wants to live in Monroe, North Carolina?
And I think there's also this. I think there's also this misconception, and it is a known. It's willfully informing people. If you live in a suburb, you don't live in a small town. You just live in a suburb of a big city. So there are a lot of people who live in suburbs, especially in Texas, where almost every city is a suburb of a major city. And the people who live in those suburbs call themselves small town people, but they're not. They're just suburban people. And they think they're living small town living. No, you're not. You're just living suburban. You still have congestion. You still have, like, there are people in Charlotte, North Carolina, believe it or not, Jenny, that live in Ballantyne who think they live in a small town. Now, to put things in perspective, Ballantyne is just south of South Charlotte. It is a suburb.
Like when you're taking Johnston Road south through Valentine, and when you cross over,
yeah,
you know, you're not like,
yeah,
mule shoe Texas. You're in a small town. You live in Mule Shoe, Texas, for example, in Bailey County.
Yeah.
In Texas.
Well,
that is
so I think
rural.
Yeah. So
it's one of those things that where you guys go camping is very rural.
Yeah, that's rural. Yeah, that's rural. So listen, hey Jenny, we're up against our last break here. If you like what you're hearing from Jenny, she does have a show that comes on 30 minutes after this show.
And it's not, you're not.
Hey Jen, you can you hear me now?
But I think back to the main subject of
Okay, let's see if we can come back here.
Yeah, I have almost no bandwidth.
Yeah. Okay, that's fine. We're gonna. I'm going to. Okay, hold on a second. Let's see if it comes back. I'm gonna take the break here, and we'll see if we can get you in a little bit for the very end.
Coffee and Pan Dulce. How's that? Coffee and Pan Dulce.